1970, I was in high school. I graduated that year, and this was a drawing I did in art class, and it kind of described my life. The surfing, and this was my girlfriend, eventually my wife, Debbie, and I worked at a Jack-in-the-Box. The Con Ed factory was right near where my house was, and it was spewing out smoke all the time, and up above is like the whole hippie movement happening at that time in 1970. So kind of a snapshot of all the things that were happening in my life and also across the country. In 1971, I was the artist in residence for the California State University at Long Beach literary magazine. And so I was doing little cartoons that they liked to put in between writings of other students. And they also reflect the time. Here's somebody up on a soapbox and dressed in the kind of bell-bottoms and a vest that you'd see at that time. A rock band that performed on campus. And I worked in the library too, so I had a library scene that I put in and depicted the person who was my boss. In the mid-1970s, I did a whole series, and this was part of my portfolio for graduation at the California College of the Arts. And I did a series of all my friends pointing in one direction, and it's a watercolor. The background is done with a mouth atomizer, like almost an airbrush, but it's a little more particulated. And this was shown at the California State Museum in 1975. In the early 1980s, I was working on my MFA, my Master of Fine Arts, at the California College of the Arts. And the school got a gift from Xerox Corporation of the first electrostatic printer. So it would, a color Xerox machine, and the first of its kind. It would melt resin onto a piece of paper. The Xerox Corporation said they wanted to see what artists would do with this, and the administration put it out to the faculty if anybody wanted to work on this machine, and I was the only one that raised my hand. And so I got to make unlimited prints with this brand new technology. And I found it had great color, much better color than was available on any printer that I'd seen at that point. And still today, I think it rivals prints and comes out as superior to some of the prints that are put out today, as far as intensity of color and also archival color. I just grab things around my studio. I paint objects often when I'm in studio. If I have extra paint, I'll take over and paint a pair of shoes or anything that's in the studio. And this has things I gathered together and then took images of and then printed them on the color Xerox machine. So these are among the first prints in a color Xerox machine. And 3 of these are in the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art permanent collection. So I had so many prints that I started to take the prints and tear them up and make collages from them as well. And these are examples of the collages that I've made. And then I would take those collages and photograph them, blow them up onto a large canvas, and paint them as large oil paintings. And this is an example of that. This series of paintings I did when I was in New York. I was living in Soho, and these were shown in Soho at the Jack Solomon Gallery and also the Peter Lorre Gallery. This is a maquette of a golf hole, a miniature golf hole that was done for the Morris Museum in Morristown, New Jersey. They contacted 9 artists and asked each one of us to produce a miniature golf hole to build in the museum, and then people came in as a fundraiser and played miniature golf. And this was golfing through Van Gogh's bedroom and into the pool hall and then down into his ear. And it was built life-size and people walked through it. This piece ended up in the New York Times. In 1987, my wife, Debbie, was walking with me down the street in Soho, and she fainted. And we called an ambulance, and she was taken to the hospital. And after a lot of tests, she was diagnosed with acute leukemia. And she had lost the ability to produce blood. And so they gave her a transfusion at that point and said we might want to explore a bone marrow transplant, but they said they didn't hold much hope for it because the match from the donor had to be a 90%, so it was almost exclusively between identical twins at that point. Although they were experimenting with using brothers and sisters. Debbie had one sibling that was the product of the same 2 parents, and they tested him and he was not a good match. And therefore she was given about a year to live. And 1990 she passed away after a strong battle against the cancer. And I was devastated. I'd known her since I was 12 years old. She was my first girlfriend. We sat next to each other in all the classes because they were alphabetical, and she was named Deborah Smith before I came along. And we were boyfriend and girlfriend all through high school, and in college we married when we were 21. And for me that was devastating. And I found I was having difficulty getting back into the studio and working. And then I decided first of all, I had some dreams that kind of told me to do this, very vivid dreams. And Debbie would talk to me in those dreams. And I started doing a whole body of work about grieving. And this was one of the first paintings I did. And this was an actual dream where I was drowning and reaching up for help. Debbie is the angel reaching down to me to try and pull me out. When she was sick, we went to a place in Northern California called Commonweal. The director and creator of the place is a man named Michael Lerner. He was a MacArthur Fellow. And it was a place for people dealing with cancer. It was called the Cancer Help Program. And she and I went there for a week. And the first thing we did on the first day was to be asked to write a poem. And every person went out alone and wrote a poem. I went out to the cliffs looking out over the Pacific Ocean. And I wrote this poem here, called Honed Stone. A squadron of pelicans fly in formation over my head. Their shadows momentarily block the sun as I slowly walk the beach edge, where dark, wet sand arcs into dry light, where waves deposit the ocean leftovers, bit of kelp, piece of shell, once jagged stone honed to a smooth disk. O God, smooth the burrs of bitterness off my soul. Burnish the fear from my heart. Polish the edges of my anger. Make me the glistening smooth stone that feels good in your hand. take me home and place me on your mantle. That was the first poem I'd written in many, many years. And later on, about 4 years later, I was contacted by the Marin General Hospital Cancer Center, and they commissioned me to do a painting for the center. And this was the painting, the pelicans flying overhead, and the beach edge and the world edge up above. And now patients go to the hospital and they see the painting, and there is a bowl on a mantle that has smooth stones in it and a copy of the poem laying next to it, and they take that in when they're receiving chemotherapy. This is a piece called The Gazelle, and it is about a dream I had. And the gazelle was Debbie, and the lion was Cancer. And I wrote a poem that went with that called The Gazelle. A gazelle, grace in movement, grace in form, became aware of the lion, thought of running, but then turned and faced the devouring force. The lion stopped, surprised and confused. Can it be that she will fight me? The gazelle braced its forelegs, lowered head and horn, and fenced with the lion's claw, and parried each thrust of the lion's paw. With horns so smooth and sharp and sheer, the cat barely knew that its fur had been pierced. The lion retreated, looking from side to side to see if the battle had been observed, embarrassed that this creature of light and grace had turned and fought him face to face and won. The lion worried. Had the other gazelles seen? Might they learn not to flee? Could they lose their fear of me? The lion looked back at the gazelle and fell in love. How could he not? With her beauty and strength and the way that she fought. But he also knew that she must be killed. He could not have gazelles being so strong-willed. The lion stalked her and waited until her heel was bruised, and when she tripped and fell, the lion took her from behind. Too weakened to defend, the gazelle looked at the lion and said, "You have my body, but not my spirit, and the other gazelles have seen that you fear it. My body will go to grass and feed their fawn, and when they fight back, it will be me going on." This is a painting called Tulips and Tulips, and Debbie's face is in the background, and the 3 tulips are in different stages of their life cycle, till one is just a seed pod. This is a chair that I had in my studio, and I put gesso on it and began to paint, and it had to do about all the dreams I was having. On the arm of the chair, it shows me sleeping, and then my hand writing down the poem and the dream that I'd just had. And in this one, it was a dream about the Colosseum. And I was in the Colosseum, and in the dream there was a battle going on the stage. And it was like all the people in heaven looking at all the carnage on earth and seeing what we were doing and kind of praying for us to stop fighting and to try and live together. This is a imperial bottle of Mouton Condé that I got for my 40th birthday party. And at that party, I drank a good portion of that. And this is me rowing on a burning lake. And here is, as you go around, that's me passed out in the boat. And this is a piece that's about drinking too much, to forget your troubles, and how it damages you. There is a poem that goes with this. Message on the bottle. Rowing on the burning lake toward the Isle of Dreams. Swallow deep the fire water to silence inner screams. Numbed heart atrophied, lack of use, loss of need. Why, wine, wine? Drink away the time and mind to find the stupid state of bliss, the surest sign of cowardice. So in the mid-1980s, I was doing large abstract oil paintings like this one, and I did a whole series of those. And then I had all these objects that I collect, and I had them in my studio, and I rolled in fact, my studio was my garage, and my Weber grill was sitting in front of that painting. And I looked at it and I go, that's really interesting. And I took a photograph of it, and then I blew it up, and this watercolor is the result of that combination. And I did a whole series of these abstract oil paintings, and then would put a object like the shopping cart in the next one in front of the painting. And then I would show both the abstract and the photorealistic watercolors in the same exhibition. And this piece is now in the collection of the Hudson Community College, has a collection of artist educator images. So in the early 1980s, I started painting on objects. I had a lot of things that I'd collected that I just thought were interesting. This happened to be the back door, screen door to the house, and it had been destroyed by a dog and cut into several places, and I took it down and it was in the garage. And then I looked at it and I said, it's really kind of interesting, and I started to paint on it. Then I would take pictures using the screen door and other pieces that I'd painted as part of my subject matter. So art object becomes art subject. And this is an extension cord, but there's a crutch. That's the screen door in the background on that one. And this is the screen door as well, and it has a garden rake and a light bulb and a soap dish, extension cords, all hung off that door and then used as an art object. These are digital collages. I make a regular collage using scraps of magazine prints and anything I find, and then glue them together, but they're archivally not very sound. They tend to fade. And so I started scanning them and then working them in Photoshop and trying to pull together the image to get a more solid image and also one that was archival. And it continues something where I started writing poems after Debbie's death, but then I continued to write poems to this day. And this poem was when my daughter Talia was born. And it says, "Prayer of thanks for our baby. When you wake me up, I'm thankful for your precious little life. When you need to be fed, I'm grateful for your mother, my love, and my wife. When you cry, I try to figure out why and feel blessed for your breath and your voice. In bathing your skin, I feel so akin. I give thanks, I praise and rejoice. The piddle and spittle and each little diddle, for these I am grateful too. With each diaper I lift, I thank God for the gift of the sweet inconvenience of you." I also wrote a poem when Chloe was born. It's called Space Available. Breathe, push, push, push. Power of the hour, unending minute. The space between ticks has an eternity in it. Breathe, push, push, push. First head, then shoulders, hands and feet. I cut the cord. You cry, you eat. I thought my heart was full. My cup runneth over and spill. But it turned out I had empty space that only your face could fill. As though you had always been, as though you would always be, filling a void inside my soul I had not the wisdom to see. Coming and going is this one. I find myself coming and going when more than the air and blood stop flowing, when more than electrochemical halts, the white-winged ethereal spirit vaults. The heaving, hacking sack of cells births a soul past heaven and hells. into the waiting arms of reality, flicking the final ash of duality, and find it isn't even odd for us to be at one with God. I find myself coming and going when more than the cells in the womb are growing, more than the sonogram can read, more than the multiplicity of seed. From inside out of my sweet wife, a weeping, wailing wonder of life, beloved, brave-hearted little thing, a cause for all our souls to sing. My proof that after life and after birth, our spirits live beyond this earth. This is a 10-year project that I have just completed, and it's of the 7 deadly sins. And I became interested in this when I reread the Divine Comedy. The first one I did, which was 10 years ago, was gluttony. It has all the things in it that people enjoy imbibing, and I enjoy it as much as anybody else. So that's the first one I wanted to tackle. From there I went to greed. Greed has all the objects of desire. A black American Express card, except it says American Excess. A Cohiba cigar and a Jaguar and a Mercedes. $100 bills galore, a Rolex, a Mont Blanc pen. All are the objects of desire in the painting Greed. This is acrylic on a clayboard panel. So these are all paintings. This is Pride. Pride has my mother's Argus camera in it, and a number of trophies, including the Heisman Trophy. My name is down here underneath the Spalding Trophy. And the mirror has the face of Kim Kardashian. And if you look closely in the mirror, there is a skull. And then the other items are items of vanity. The ribbon for the first prize is being eaten by a moth. And the comb and lipstick, the compact mirror, and a peacock feather, because a peacock is a traditional symbol of pride. Then I did wrath, or anger. Anger has a Molotov cocktail made out of a skull head tequila bottle. The handguns that have played roles in our history. And then also brass knuckles and a stiletto, a hand grenade, all items of violence that are used by the hand of man. The next painting was Envy. And this picture depicts the urinal that was done by Marcel Duchamp in 1917 and submitted. He signed the urinal Armut in 1917 and entered it in an art show. It was the first piece of contemporary art. And then his disciples, Andy Warhol and Jeff Koons, are all artists that Andy Warhol had an art factory where he hired people to come in and help him make all of the pieces that he did. And Jeff Koons also has almost an art corporation producing art objects. And the subtitle on this is Envy, Art Without Craft. This is Lust, and my pinup girl was Marilyn Monroe as a young boy and as a young man. And this is Life magazine from 1952, and my birth date is on the magazine. And then the mailing address is to Keith Smith at Albrook Air Base in Panama Canal when I was born. So she was a little old for me, but I liked her still. This is a Playboy key for the Playboy Club, and the heartthrob of many women would be Marlon Brando and an open bottle of Viagra. And the last piece in the series is Sloth. And I toiled over this. I could not come up with what I thought were good images to depict sloth until I realized probably the most realistic evidence of sloth is doing nothing. And so I painted the canvas slate gray like the background in all of the other sins and said, that's it.
Here with Keith Smith, professor at County College of Morris, artist extraordinaire, on the occasion of a retrospective of your entire life and your work. First off, how are you feeling about looking at that exhibition and just all the many years that we've captured here?
I would say it's an honor and a pleasure. Pulling it all together was a big job, but once I saw it up on the wall and walked through it, I almost felt like I was walking through my life, and it was very gratifying.
Where does your story begin? Tell us a little bit about where you were born.
I was born in Panama in the Canal Zone. My father was a senior master sergeant in the Air Force and World War II veteran, and decided to stay in the Air Force after the war was over, and then became career military for 23 years. So we traveled a lot, and born in Panama, then traveled to California, then came to Oklahoma, from Oklahoma to Hawaii, Hickam Air Base in Hawaii, then from Hawaii to Japan, Japan to Syracuse, New York, and then to Newburgh, New York at Stewart Air Base, which is now Stewart Airport. And then my father, when I was 11 years old, decided to retire from the Air Force, and we moved to where my grandparents lived in Long Beach, California, and that's what I consider my hometown.
What are your memories of Long Beach at that time in your life?
Oh, I felt I'd gone to heaven. It was a beautiful climate, sunny and right on the beach. I could walk from my grandparents' house to the beach and put a towel out in the summer. And for the first time, I stayed in one school for more than 1 year. And so I began to make friends. Air Force kids don't have many connections to the people that they meet as they're growing up because they all scatter. So this is the first time I had friends. I met my first girlfriend in 7th grade. Her name was Debbie Smith, and my name was Keith Smith, and so we were next to each other in the yearbook all the time. And we dated through high school and into college, and then got married when we were 21.
What was your earliest memory of picking up a brush or a pencil and kind of starting in the world of art?
Well, something I did all through my life was draw as a activity when you were traveling, also just something that would keep me busy. And my mother was good at giving me crayons and drawing tools, but I never got a painting set until I was 13 years old. And we lived in Long Beach at that point, and my neighbor was a Sunday painter, painted in his garage on weekends, and I would watch him and ask questions. And he gave me a set of oil paints and a book on how to paint and a canvas. I took it into my house and I followed the instructions in the book, which was how to paint a Rembrandt. And it was called The Man with the Golden Helmet, that was attributed to Rembrandt. And I took the painting back to show him, and he said, "I want to talk with your parents." And he came over and told him that this was extraordinary, and he said, "I can't do this." And he said, "You should encourage him." And my mother went out and bought a beautiful frame for the painting that I'd done and put it up in our living room, and I haven't stopped painting since. I think that's kind of the thing that made me decide I wanted to be an artist.
It must have been great to have a mentor and supportive parents that kind of saw your dream and helped you out with that.
They did, and finally, after a few years, it became a wall of paintings instead of just one up. They put up a number of them in our living room, kind of on display to anybody who came into the house. So they were very encouraging and helpful.
Tell me a little bit about your college years, getting your BFA and MFA. Tell me a little bit about that. And you're still with Debbie at that time.
Yes, I started at Cal State Long Beach. I went 3 years there, and then at that point, Debbie decided to transfer to Cal in Berkeley, and she said, "Let's go together." And I said, "Okay." And I applied to the California College of the Arts in Berkeley and Oakland. It's kind of on the borderline of Berkeley and Oakland, and it's a really good professional art school. And I got my BFA there, and then I went back and got my MFA there as well. And they were also instrumental in my career and giving me the skills I needed to pretty much do whatever I wanted with my artwork.
So we've been on the West Coast for this story so far. How do we come east?
When we both graduated, she got her master's degree from UC Davis, and she was an economist. She was working for Jerry Brown. His administration ended. She was the Undersecretary of Business and Transportation. And she then got a job with Beneficial Corporation, which brought us to New Jersey. And she was their chief economist and strategic planner. And I went to work teaching at the various schools, including CCM, as an adjunct. I also taught at Sussex Community College for a while, and William Patterson as a adjunct. Then she got a job with Chase, and we moved into a loft in Soho. And in the middle 80s, which was a pretty vibrant time down in Soho, it was the place to be. And it kind of gave me a new insight into art as a business and also as a profession. Lots of places to show, lots of people to talk to who are doing the same thing I was doing. And I'd never been in an environment like that before. So it was very energizing.
And I guess it's fair to say that at that point in your life, when you're in Soho, your career really starts to take off as an artist?
Yes, showing more, getting exhibitions. In California, I had work in the museum, the State Museum in California. I also had work in the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. And I had a gallery that showed my work at Gump's. But here it was a step up, and also more difficult. You had a lot more competition, but very energizing. And it's when I really started to produce a lot of artwork.
And you branch off a lot too. It's not just painting and drawing. Down in the exhibition we have poetry. We have a lot of different kind of modes. Can you talk a little bit about how you're interested in a diverse kind of set?
I think I've always kind of followed the whims of my aesthetics wherever they lead me. I don't try and stay with necessarily one style. And that's been good and energizing for me, but also that's sometimes difficult for galleries and museums to deal with. But it's the only way I know how to do it. I really had never written until the end of the 1980s. Debbie and I were walking down the street in Soho, and she fainted, and we took her to the hospital, and she was diagnosed with acute leukemia. And she died 16 months later. in 1990. And I was devastated. She'd been my partner since I was in 7th grade. And I moved out of Soho and back to a little house that we have in Sparta and started to work in the studio there to produce work about what I experienced in her passing and the grief I was experiencing. And that's when I started to have dreams that would kind of instruct me what to paint, and also I started to have poetry come to me. And I hadn't written very much poetry at all, but all of a sudden it was coming to me almost like automatic writing. And most of it was linked to an image that I was working on that was depicting vivid dreams I was having, where she would communicate with me. Then I met Ginny about 2 years after that. I tried to date a few times and didn't have good luck, but I kind of won the lottery when I met Ginny. And she not only helped me write the book that I was working on, she edited the book, and helped me produce the first exhibition of the work too.
So you talk about Ginny. What does Ginny mean to you?
Well, Ginny came into my life and I think changed everything. In a lot of ways, she kind of resurrected me. I was pretty broken. And the whole second half of my life and the joy and love that I have all came because of meeting her and marrying her and having our children, Chloe and Talia. It's like the flower on my life. And I owe her everything.
And Ginny, Chloe, and Talia, they all made it to the opening of the exhibition as well. That must have been a special night.
We not only had, they came and Chloe was coming with her fiance from Denver, Colorado. Talia drove down with Ben Muller, her husband, from Boston. My brother flew in from Oregon. My little sister from Debbie's little sister, who I'm very close with, flew in from Long Beach. And so we had a family reunion, and it was fantastic, not to mention all my great friends who came to support me. People from my church all made a special trip to come en masse to the exhibition. And like you said, the former students who showed up, it was a wonderful experience. Kind of the cherry on the ice cream sundae of my life.
I noticed some photographs as well from California. Was that you going back to relive some of those early memories as well too? Some of those are probably your old stomping grounds.
Some are. I've always been interested in photography. I also got interested in video, and I've created some short videos that have shown in different places. And I've always carried a camera with me, and now that my camera is a phone, it's even easier to take images. And they have always been part of my artwork too. I've shown my photography a number of times.
In the exhibition and in this discussion today, you've been very open with your life about Debbie and Ginny, Talia and Chloe, just what inspires you as an artist. One pivotal bullet point in your resume is that you are dedicated to education and passing on what you've learned. Can you talk about that maybe as a final question of the many students you've had over the years?
That was another thing that was so gratifying about the exhibition, is because I had so many students from the past show up for the opening and during the run of the show. Just yesterday I had a student who came in, saw the show and came over to the art studio to talk with me. And it was just such a great pleasure to see them again. I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of very talented, wonderful young people and kind of send them on their way in different directions, which, you know, could be art therapists. I have 3 former students who are tattoo artists. I have other students who've gone on to teach, and a few that have gone on just doing work and getting grants and making their artwork in that way. So yeah, it's a big part of what I do, and I think a lot of the ideas I get also come through teaching. It solidifies your own philosophy when you're trying to help somebody else learn the skills that you learned. And I learned them the hard way, kind of trial and error, and I highly recommend going to a good school and having a good mentor. It speeds the process a great deal.
Well, Keith, thanks for sharing your art and your life. Thanks for mentoring these students. Thanks for mentoring me and all the faculty as well, too. You hired me, so thank you so much.
It was a good hire.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on this retrospective of your entire career.
Thank you so much, John. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.